السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه أما بعد. So today we continue with our series, which is belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So day before yesterday, because yesterday we had some reminders and announcements. So day before yesterday we began the heading of arguments and proofs for the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of the Creator Himself. And day before yesterday we discussed about primarily two Western arguments. As I said, and I will remind ourselves again, that we say that we will present the Western arguments and then we will come to the Quranic arguments, inshallah. And then we will give a conclusion, weighing both arguments to see which is more stronger and which appeals, which of the arguments, which of the two types of arguments appeals to the human conscience more. So day before yesterday we discussed about the ontological argument and we discussed about the cosmological argument. Just to remind you, in case you have forgotten, most likely you have forgotten, the ontological argument was first introduced by a man known as St. Anselm. Okay? He gives a definition of God, and he says that than which nothing greater could be thought of, could be conceived by the human mind. And he gives an example to argue this definition when he says, think about a God who exists in the mind and a God who exists in reality. Anything that exists in the mind and compared to anything that exists in reality. Of course, by human logic, we will all agree that what exists in reality is stronger than what exists in the mind. Since what exists in the mind, it's just an abstract. There's nothing it could do. So if someone agrees to that, he says then you cannot deny the fact by reasonable, logical sense that God has to exist in reality. It can't be otherwise. There's no question to that. And then we discussed about the cosmological argument, okay, where there's two premises and then a conclusion. Everything that exists must have a cause. The universe also came into existence. The conclusion of these two premises is that the universe must have a creator, a cause, who brought it into existence. So we discussed that. The third argument where we will carry on today is known as the teleological argument. The teleological argument. This is also a very interesting argument that the Quran also speaks about. The Quran also evokes us to think about this. Teleological, telos means the end of goal. It's basically argument from design. And that is why, according to the Western philosophers, this argument is also known as the watchmaker's argument, argument from design. So this is how this argument goes. It says that this universe is simply too well designed, well knit, for it to have come from nothing. It just can't be that it came from nothing. It's infinitely complex, and yet exhibits such an interconnected symbiosis and efficiency. It has such an exquisite pattern to it, so it's impossible for it to have come just like that randomly. It can't. How well interconnected this world is, the universe is, and whatever exists within, from the mountains, from the trees, to the rivers, from the solar system, to the lunar system, the cosmos above us, everything is so well connected, it indicates of a powerful, knowledgeable creator. And in our times, there's a modern revision of this argument. It's known as the fine-tune argument. A lot of Western thinkers use this argument with specific examples from sciences like physics, chemistry, biology, whereas certain constants, such as the strength of gravity, gravitational constants, or a strong nuclear force, all of these, the mass density of the universe, all of these work in tandem to provide conditions necessary for life to exist, and this cannot be denied. Very basic examples. Think about germination. Think about embryology, how the fetus develops in the womb of a mother. It just couldn't have taken place like that. It just doesn't happen by chance. There has to be a creator who is extremely intelligent, who is extremely beautiful, to have created this well-interconnected structure. This is a teleological argument. It indicates automatically that there is a creator. The second last argument that we will mention, argument from morality. This is also an extremely strong argument. This is the primary argument for many Reformation era thinkers, including the likes of Martin Luther and C.S. Lewis, who writes, conscience reveals to us morality, the source of which cannot come from the natural world. It points at a supernatural lawgiver. I'll give you an example. And this is used in modern debates also. For example, I say to you that there was a 2-year-old who was murdered today in town center. Would you find that to be wrong morally, or you would find it to be right? This is objective morality. And this is a huge threat to atheism. Atheism comes into question, and the conundrum of morality is actually, it's a conundrum cannot be solved by atheism, who remove God out of the picture, especially with the question of objective morality. What is objective morality? Let me just answer this very in simple terms. Objective morality is morality that transcends human subjectivity. It doesn't need human opinion. It doesn't need for someone to believe in something in order for it to be bad. Bad is bad because it's inherently bad. This is objective morality. For example, the example that I presented to you. Now, atheists, they lead moral lives. Of course, they lead moral lives. If you ask them about the example I presented to you, they will even agree. It's bad. It's evil. No one will accept to it. But they cannot provide a moral justification to it when God is removed out of the picture. So argument from morality indicates if someone finds such an example to be inherently evil, inherently bad, this indicates, and you cannot find the source of it from the natural world. Whether you come from this race or that race, you believe in this faith or that faith, regardless of your biases, every person who is a human will find this to be bad. Even animals find this to be bad. It indicates of a supernatural lawgiver. This is argument from morality. The last Western argument that we will discuss, this is also very interesting, is known as the pragmatic argument. In other words, Pascal Wager's argument. He says, you might as well believe in a creator because the stakes are too high if one rejects God. How so? If you die and you find God to be there and you had rejected God, what are you going to do? There's no harm in you believing in God, because if you die and God is not there, you haven't lost anything. If you didn't believe in God and you died and you find God, then you're in trouble. So the stakes are too high in rejecting God. You might as well believe in God. However, this argument is very weak because it makes light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just believing for the sake of you to get away with it in the hereafter, in the afterlife. Anyhow, these are Western arguments, and there's so many of them. But I have just presented to you at least 5 of them, and inshallah from tomorrow, we'll look how beautifully Quran presents Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see, the truth, if it is the truth, it doesn't need to make a proof that it is the truth. When you are good, you don't need to prove to others that you're good. It should come out naturally. And inshallah tomorrow we'll see how beautifully Quran presents this. Barakallahu feekum. Jazakumullah khairan.